Welcome to another video, in which I want to emphasize on a topic that may or may not affect you as a Final Fantasy XIV player, but at least most of you have already taken the one or the other thought about it. How could leveling be improved in a game where it is a necessary stepping stone to tackle endgame content, with probably the job we're still searching to become our main job? And of course, the longer this search is taking you and the more jobs are not the choice that might be ending up as your absolute banger of a job, the more jobs and classes you will have to level up. The first aspect of this, which could lead to multiple decisions and tries of jobs on level 90, I already sketched in my last video. Because I feel the reason that you might still be indecisive on that regard is due to not actually playing your job a lot in a lot of ways to level it up. Just as a straight example, which might not be the usual case but at least a possibility, is if you just queue up for dailies and gently and slowly fulfill your leveling duties taking this road, maybe mixing in some extremely fancy and funny beast tribe quests, that was irony for warrior mains out there, you end up not really playing this job at all, or at least with a good chance of missing out a hell of endgame or mid-game content by constantly being thrown into Kalpa Bell mines or the like. Which then might lead to the fact that you're ending up with the wrong choice among reaching level 90 and finding out that this job doesn't tick the boxes you were looking for. Of course, it might be your own fault because you could easily just have taken the best route of grinding Endwalker dungeons, in which you would have been introduced to your final kit step by step. But that is also one way to grind down your motivation and gameplay enjoyment, as it's insanely repetitive. So my usual plan to level up jobs in Final Fantasy goes either for doing it live on Twitch, so that at least I have some conversation and very entertaining chat with you in the process, or just simply doing what is supposed to be the low-key leveling way. Duty roulette, leveling, frontline, and while being in queue, doing my clan hunts and beast tribe quests. Sounds like a super ineffective way of leveling, right? Actually, it isn't, because if you end up timing this towards the daily reset, chances are good that you get around 3 to 4 levels per 2 rounds of dailies, which sometimes doesn't take you longer than 90 minutes. But here comes the issue that I truly believe a non-insignificant fraction of the player base would agree on. Why do we have level syncing that is dependent to the dungeon level instead of just flexibly scaling down from what our character is capable to do? For example, you end up having Sastasha. You will find yourself clicking the same 3 buttons over and over again, not in the exact same order, because your brain will come to the point of disintegrating, but 3 buttons it is, my friends. However, if Square would simply replace the logic of your character being reduced in its job or class level to that point where the dungeon takes place, with what I would call a division of your recent power level, things would become at least 10 times more interesting. Not only that you can practice what your job is supposed to become at an endgame level, but you also enjoy the dungeon way more, as it might have a more challenging difficulty level as well, or at least using your kit in a meaningful way becomes more relevant. Yes, here comes the issue of this method, and believe me, I have thought about a solution for more than 2 expansions. What about a level 88 Dragoon being matched with a level 16 Lancer and a tank and healer? Should they have access to the kit of the highest player job in the party so that the Lancer gets all the benefits of the level 88 Dragoon and is totally overwhelmed by the increase of complexity compared to its former battle system? No, maybe not, because that would destroy the RPG experience and development of your character in that regard. And when we would apply it the other way around, things are ending up the way they do now. The dungeon level is the limit and point of definition for your skill set. Another possible method to balance this out while still having the full skill set for high level players would lead to an invisible scaling that they have in World of Warcraft. Oh no! So that your personal enemies are on your own level and take damage according to common values of dungeon enemies on your exact level, which I believe might take an insane amount of engine optimization and mathematical spreadsheets being filled out, leading to less working force to work on fresh content for the game, which of course should be top priority when it comes to resource management for keeping a game alive. So at this point we reached a sort of dead end here, and without spending a dynamous amount of extra effort on the side of the developers, there's no final solution. And of course, if there would be an easy route around this, chances are extremely high that Team Yoshida had found them. Nonetheless, I got 2 possible ways of fixing the most annoying aspects of this, but let me try to pin this down as easy to understand as possible. The first solution. This is basically taken from the idea of how the difficulty scaler is designed on Leaf quests. You, by yourself, are able to adjust the challenge aspect of the Leaf quest target and goal in question, simply by pushing this little bar with some extra levels. By doing so, enemies' level and rewards for completing the Leaf or Leaf are increased. Sure, this hasn't got a massive effect on both aspects, but just the idea is what we're looking for. So for Sastasha being part of the duty roulette daily, or even for a possible non-daily version that could become interesting for players even over level 80, there should be scaled difficulty versions set to levels normal level, 50, 60, 70 and 80, maybe even 90 later on. No, all your skills are unlocked and locked behind the level you have chosen, and rewards are depending on the difficulty or challenge level of the dungeon, so that developers would not have to scale each and every mob to all possible levels a player could have joining this dungeon. But in opposition, stick with these breakpoint levels, and enemy HP and damage output values scale according to these level limits. Now, the new player on a possible level 16 Lancer is the defining factor. Would they be able to take up the challenge or actually want to increase their leveling speed? Pressing a higher level limit would be necessary, while lower levels would lead to the experience you would normally have, leaving out those extra rewards and challenge. Of course, these bonus rewards would need to be attractive to turn that into an actual option, but at least players with a solid amount of experience in Final Fantasy XIV already would be up for the task and additional challenge it may offer. Yes, this is not totally unrealistic, as PvP is exactly that, altering your normal setup and hotbar in the way it does now. However, on this solution, the Sprout player might take up the disadvantage here, as queue times might increase and nobody wants to farm the normal mode anymore. But that is where queue transparency would have to come in place. So that, for example, upon choosing dungeons, an active participation bar should be visible, and content plus different versions of that set content with lower or higher queue times are being visible to the player. There must be something active already defining things like role in need and stuff like that. So searching for content with less queue times or higher rewards could actually become a funny side thing to do, and the variation of choosing a different dungeon each day with good rewards, not much waiting time, and still a challenging run with actual skills to press would be the final result. If of course dungeons EXP are being received following on that logic and system. Yes, this might be a good amount of extra effort and tweaking to the system they have right now, but when done properly and with keen planning in mind for future dungeons, trials or raids, this could lead to a perfect solution to make old content relevant basically forever. And that without the need to work on insanely complex scaling systems like they did in WoW, and focusing on what is great in Final Fantasy, its combat style on max level. Which leads us to the second solution derived from Elden Ring. Exactly, we need runes, but we actually don't need them because we have those already. Yes, granting EXP through Elagan tomestones. Not just poetics or even not limited to Elagan tomestones at all, but basically for currency except that which can be bought or sold on the market board. This would open up so much more content to be relevant for the leveling grind, and even really old niche or side content could become a possible solution to grind down the last bit of EXP for your ult to reach the next level. Of course, to not destroy Duty Finder on low level completely, there has to be some disadvantage compared to leveling in the usual way. But oh my goodness, would I favor leveling in 50% of the normal pace and speed, but with exactly that form of content I want to tackle. Surely this could mean not touching a job at all and playing your main for leveling other jobs without practicing them, which could lead to a bad experience on fresh level 90. But now comes the astonishing truth: who the cares? Duty Finder content is so easy and can literally be done by half the party. And I honestly don't believe that a player playing the game, at least with another job, won't be able to quickly catch up into the battle system of a new alternative. Especially as methods like getting Sastasha or other low-key dungeons all week long, or just doing the final leap with Beast Tribe quests exist. So to have a form of choice to level like that, I would actually delete my whole account for such an option. Just imagine doing your weekly raids and simply using whatever tomestones you get for leveling all jobs, making endgame content relevant again even after you got all your item level 600 gear and glam, even mid-level dungeons and raids. And as long as this is limited to currency not available on the market board or through cash shops or anything like that, it's also prone to pay to win claims, as you're actually grinding to win, while the absolute optimizers will still invigorate the Duty Finder. Most people will, if they're up for actively leveling a job instead of logging in very rarely just to do their effective dailies. So active play is promoted, variety of choices being vastened significantly, and boredom and repetition are reduced proportionally, while introducing another form of use for Allagan tomestones and other currency to stay relevant for at least as long as you haven't leveled up each and every job this game has to offer. Yes, fresh level 90 players could end up struggling with the job, because they didn't have any practice whatsoever. Yet I feel like the solution is in this game already. It's normal mode, it's easy as... But what do you guys think about this? Did you find a solution to the first problem mentioned and I'm just too dumb to think about it properly? Or if not, would you approve one of my later options? Let me know in the comments section, and until we see some big changes to the system in maybe 7.0, see you in Duty Finder doing the same dungeon, same buttons over and over again, until we finally reach endgame. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.